So today we're going to go beyond basic. Now, what this means is we're going to kind of go beyond those basic questions that we have already written. We're going to go into our next set of questions. So let's talk about our normal, where we were, where we are, and where we're going. So where have we been? We have been in that search category. We were finishing up our level 1 questions. We were answering the questions. We were turning them in and putting them on our Google site. So where are we today? Today we are going back to our plan gear. Remember, these are not step 1, step 2, step 3. This is a rotation. That's why it's that's why it's gear specific like that. That's why we don't write it out as step 1, is because you can backtrack. And that's what we're doing today. We're going back to plan because we're still deciding what question will guide our learning. We're going back to that level 2 question and writing those questions. And as always, we're going to reflect, because today you're going to get some input from either your classmates, your teacher. We're going to talk about because writing level 2 questions is hard. So where are we headed next? You are going to work towards writing or answering your level 2 and after this your level 3 questions. And so we're going to be in that search, use, reflect. We're going to be utilizing that information. We're going to be searching for information from multiple sources, citing sources. We're going to sometimes refocus our research, decide what info to keep, what to get rid of, find new sources as needed to answer my questions. Okay, so I want to remind you about what basic questions are. They are literally in the text. They are straightforward answers. 2 plus 2 equals 4. When did this happen? Here's the exact date. How many people were involved? Here's the exact number. So those answers are very specific and they answer the question straightforward. I can put my finger on it. So we're going to call those level 1 questions. Those are those level 1 questions we have talked about. We are going to now be talking about level 2 questions. Level 2 questions are between the lines. That's where we're going to have to read between the lines. So what we're going to look at is level 2 and level 3 questions. These are deeper questions. This is where we kind of get to have a little bit of our opinion. So level 2 questions are textually implicit, requiring analysis and interpretation of specific parts of the text. They're more inference-based. I know that's a kind of a wordy explanation for it, but what you need to know is you're going to take the information that you're given and you're going to take information from another place and you're going to kind of come up with your own answer in a way. It's going to be, the sky is blue today and I'm inferring that it's sunny. Okay, that's a very simple way to explain it, but that's kind of what we're looking at here. So I'm going to give you some examples, and these are actually stems that you can use towards your question. So let's look at them. So remember, my example is going to be World War II. So as I move through this, I might adjust it if it's a who question, but this is kind of where our why questions get involved. What do you think blank really wanted? With World War II, I could kind of go a couple of different ways with this. I could say, what do you think the Axis powers really wanted? Now remember, Axis powers were Germany, Japan, Italy, the people who are trying to essentially take over the world and who were causing the war. Okay, or I could even go, if I was doing something more focused on a person, I could say, what do you think Adolf Hitler really wanted? So I could kind of go that way if I wanted to. I could go in, what did Winston Churchill like? It just depends. Remember, you are in charge of your questions. Okay, how are blank and blank different and how are they similar? Now, guys, I will be honest. I do know that you're only writing one question, but if you ask the question, how are they different? You also need to include the how are they similar question. We need to have both of those questions in there. So how are blank and blank different and how are they similar? There's a couple of different places you could go with this. We could say, how are World War I and World War II different and how are they similar? If I wanted to go that direction, I could talk about the different powers. I could say, how are Winston Churchill and Adolf Hitler different? How are FDR, Franklin D. Roosevelt, and Adolf Hitler different? And how are they similar? Now remember, I'm always keeping my topics within my question, so that's kind of why I've done it like that. Explain blank's motivation to do blank. Now again, this is kind of a person question, but we can also use it as a place question, or we can adjust it according to it. Explain Adolf Hitler's motivation to focus on the Jewish community. Why was he focused on them so much? Why was he essentially making them the evil people of this. Explain Japan's motivation to bomb Pearl Harbor. If I want to go in and I want to answer that question, if that's the direction I want my questions to go. If blank changed in the story, how would the plot change? Now I understand this sounds like you are trying to answer a question about a story. And essentially, that's kind of what you're doing here. In some of these instances, this is a story, but you could kind of adjust it according to your topic if you would like to. If blank changed in the story, how would the plot changed? If the Jewish community stood up against Hitler, how would that change World War II? And that could kind of be one of your questions. And that's, that's kind of a hard question to answer, but I could go through and say, this is how it would change, because I could show examples of uprising, because there was examples of Jewish uprising, but just not in a vast quantity. If the United States joined World War II when it started instead of in 1941, how would that have changed the war? So you see, guys, how I can change this according to this. Let me give you guys some examples of the different ones that you guys will deal with. What if it's an animal? If this animal was extinct, how would that change the environment? If you were doing a tiger, how would it change the jungle, if it would change it at all? If basketball did not become popular, how would that change the sport? I could do that if I wanted to. If new rules hadn't been put in place for the safety of the players in football, how would the sport look different today? So you guys see how you can kind of adjust it based on that. We're not going to put the story and plot. We can adjust the wording. And any why questions you have. If I ask, why did Adolf Hitler want to be in charge of Germany? That is a level 2 question. If I said, and this can be another why about the United States. Why did the United States not join World War II until after Pearl Harbor? Any why question. Now, I know that some why questions might feel level 1, where it's like, here's my answer. But sometimes the answer is not as simple as that. And so that's why we're allowing level 1 questions to be why questions to be level 2 questions. And sometimes those are the easier ones for you guys to write. So here's what I want you to do. I want you to take a few minutes and I want you to write one level 2 question. One level 2 question, and that's it. And then you can pause this video while you write it. Now, I want to remind you of a couple of things. First off, you need to start it with a capital letter and you need to end it with a question mark. Also, your topic must be in your question, and if it's a proper noun, you need to make sure and capitalize it, and you need to make sure it looks correct. Okay, make sure the does are correct, the verb is correct. Say your question out loud before you move on. So pause the video here to write your level 1 question. Now, if we are in class, the great way to do this is that you guys are going to actually get with a partner and you're going to go over your level 2 questions. And I want you guys, if you're analyzing another person's question, actually ask yourself, is this between the lines? Is this something that they cannot answer with a straight question or a straight answer? Do they have to kind of pull things from multiple places to get their answer? Or is it an answer that I can put my finger on? Be honest with them. Don't make this something that you're just rushing through to get on to the next part, okay? Now, if you are at home doing this, have mom and dad come in here, have an older sibling, say, hey, does this sound like a level 2 question? Does this sound like a question that's between the lines? Ask them to look at it for you before you move on to answering it. If you are really questioning it, a great way to do it is to ask your librarian, email your librarian, or email your teacher and ask, hey, I just want to verify that this is a level 2 question. And that might be something we do in the end, but that's a way to do it, okay? Now, once you're done with that, you're going to move on to the next video, and you're going to put your question onto your Google site, and then you're going to work on starting to answer your question. So enjoy researching this. This is a great way to do it.